So we're back. We're talking about mobile. We're talking about live streaming. I have the live streaming expert here, Cathy Hackl, for part 2. Hey, Cathy.
Hey, Lisa.
So we went over in the last interview, we went over an overview of all the platforms, but there was one other that we were waiting as a bonus to talk about in this interview. Which one is that?
Yeah, and it's actually 2. I'm going to talk about 2 because I just remembered one. So one of them that I didn't mention is YouNow, which is really focused on the millennial market. It's got over 100 million users. I remember the exact number, but it's a big number. They're mostly millennials. America's Got Talent, that show that happens in the summer. You know, it's got like Nick Cannon. It's got all these famous people, Heidi Klum, whatever. They actually hold auditions on YouNow.
Cool.
So yeah, and Huffington Post has a show on YouNow and everything. So there's been a big push for it, and it usually doesn't get as much love as the other platforms, but it is doing a big push. In Germany, they've got YouNow Deutsch, they've got YouNow Arabi, which is for the Arab world, and YouNow Latino. So they're really expanding kind of their brand. And I've been able to talk to the CEO, fantastic guy. So great platform for millennials, and it's monetized. That is a platform that is already monetized, which is interesting.
And what was the other one?
And the other one is just going back to YouTube. I mean, YouTube, you've got YouTube 360 video. There are some ways you can go live on YouTube from a certain Samsung phone or things, but it's going to change. And once you actually have more YouTube Live, more capabilities of actually doing mobile live streaming from your phone to YouTube, I think that's the big contender. You know, I think that's going to be a huge contender that people are going to be talking about, especially with, you know, with so many YouTubers already monetizing YouTube and making bank. So
yeah, definitely YouTube is a player. So Cathy, you started the first ever Periscope Live Summit that happened last fall. That was like giving a baby, but you are actually having a real baby soon. But that was a huge undertaking, and that just shows your commitment to what you see the future of live streaming is. So if you could just kind of walk us through what you believe the future is. And then I want to get into if you could share some tips and tricks and secrets of live streaming for the social media managers out there and the soon-to-be social media managers.
Yeah. Well, definitely Periscope Community Summit was definitely a labor of love. I mean, our first event happened in New York in September. So imagine that, March to September, organizing an event for something that was fairly new, but the community is quite engaged. So it was fantastic. We trended on Twitter, even though the Pope was in town. So, you know, that was huge for us. And we had our second event, which I didn't organize that one, but I was still part of the, you know, it's part of the advisors, let's say. We had that in January. So we're from 300 attendees to almost 1,000. More and more brands are getting interested in understanding the users of these platforms, because it's a user-generated conference. So that was exciting. And then as far as the future goes, I mean, I see this big push when it comes to 360 video and virtual reality kind of combining with live streaming. You already see Facebook, you know, Facebook has their social VR team, which is looking on ways to make social, you know, and Mark Zuckerberg said it, he said, VR is going to be the most social network, the most social platform. And I really believe that there is a lot there to be said. I also see this as, and I wrote an article for the Huffington Post because I'm a blogger for them, on how live streaming, mobile live streaming, is kind of the missing link between television and social media.
So it's very interesting.
Yeah, and even Tim Cook has said this: the future of television is our apps. So, you know, where a lot of people are cutting the cord. We're on our Netflix, we're on our, you know, our HBO Go, we're on all our other things, not necessarily watching ABC News as it's happening, you know. So it's a lot to talk there about the future of what's coming. And I mean, you know, we obviously know that video is the next thing. Like video is taking over the internet in general, so over the web and social. So yeah, so that's one of the things. So one of the tips I would say for the future social media managers of tomorrow is, I think it's great to know the basics. It's great for you to know how to use Twitter, how to use Facebook, how to use Instagram, or have you, but don't be scared to experiment with video, because it is going to be an important part of the strategy you're going to have to handle in a company or a brand in the future. I mean, video, not just post-produced video, but live video too. So
yeah, and I think it's important to note that the future social media managers out there, that you might be the only person on the team, or you might be one of 5 or 10 or 20 people on the team. But I think no matter how many people on the team, everybody's kind of has to be able to be hands-on and be able to do it all, regardless of how big the team is. So I agree, just experimenting, downloading Periscope to your phone and doing some live streaming. So who, when you do go to live stream, is there any special equipment that you recommend, or any tips when you're just first getting started and setting up?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the cool things is that this is the instant equalizer. We all have relatively, same phones, the same cameras. I mean, the new Samsung cameras are fantastic, but most in general, like, it's an equalizer. We all have the same technology. So yeah, there's things you can do to amplify. Like I usually have a tripod that I carry with me everywhere, so I can like stabilize. So this is an R-count mount. If I'm doing an interview, I'll have my lavalier for my phone. So there's little things you can buy, and they're quite inexpensive. The reality is that a lot of this gear is quite inexpensive. Yeah, I mean, brands can spend a lot of money on some amazing gear, but you don't have to if you want to test it out. There's a lot of inexpensive gear to make the footage a little bit better, because right now we all have the same, and definitely advice, have a good Wi-Fi connectivity, or if you're doing it from your data plan, you got to be on 4G or LTE. 3G is just going to be grainy. So, it's things of that nature. Just try to test it out, test it out.
And just looking at Periscope, for example, so download Periscope, then go to set up your first Periscope. So I've seen, I subscribe, Huffington Post does a great job, I think, in their daily Periscoping, and very consistent, same time, and giving behind the scenes of the editorial room and having special guests. But what I love about what they do is how they, what are some tips on actually the messaging when you're announcing your Periscope and naming it and the caption and using emojis? I think that whatever you can do to make it stand out. What are your thoughts on that?
Whatever you can do to make it stand out. I mean, emojis are perfect. I tend to like to capitalize the first letter of every word to make it look more like a headline instead of like just someone writing a sentence. That always tends to catch a little bit more of attention. I think I don't necessarily like to bait people, so I prefer to be like very forward as to what I'm talking about, so that when people jump on my Periscope, they know what to expect. So that's another thing. And just promoting it through your channels, letting people know you're going to go live. If you're going to go live every day at 1 o'clock, you let people know. Put those things up. Promote yourself. It's a great way to promote yourself, or amplify whatever other social campaigns you have going on. So
and then tagging and hashtags.
Yeah, and hashtags, definitely look at the hashtags that are being used. So it's there's a lot to be done in that sense. But yeah, the title is going to be extremely important.
And then what about horizontal, vertical? It seems everybody kind of has their own way of doing it. Guy Kawasaki is like always horizontal, but in Periscope, it doesn't always work out that way when you go to transition it. What is the rule on that?
Well, I personally prefer to do it this way. I think, if you're on Snapchat, you're doing it this way. Periscope started this way, so I'm used to doing it. I mean, I'll do landscape sometimes. I do see that integration. For example, you can have Periscope, the app, on your new Apple TV, on the newest version of Apple TV. So the best way to watch that is obviously in landscape. So it's a little bit of everything. I feel more comfortable. So it's going to really depend, and I think it'll be interesting as we move forward and people are experimenting more with 360 video, because it's not really 360 video doesn't really matter which way you're going. GoPro has that integration with Periscope, where you can go live from your GoPro to your Periscope, so you can do fantastic stuff. So.
And what about timing, time of day, length of your Periscope? I mean, obviously, if you're on the spot doing coverage and it's not something that is planned in advance, but if you're planning something in advance, like the Huffington Post, I'm just using them because I really like them as an example. What are your thoughts on timing, length, repurposing?
Definitely length. I mean, I personally think 15 minutes, 1.5 is a sweet spot. That's long enough to hold someone's attention. That being said, if you are doing a scope and you have a lot of engagement and there's lots of people asking questions, don't stop at 15 minutes. I mean, if there's people there interested, then acknowledge them and be excited and respect them. They're there sharing their time with you. So I would keep going. Because most of these things are only available 24 hours on the app, but there are tools like catch.me, KATCH.me, which saves them. It's kind of like a YouTube, or I don't know what to call it. It archives all your scopes so people can watch them in replay. But yeah, I think 15 minutes is a good time. Time of day when to go live, that is really going to depend on what type of scopes you do. If you're a social media person, a business person, you want to probably broadcast during the day. I mean, it really depends. I've tried different times and I get different types of engagement, people from different parts of the world. Also, if I do something in the evening, I'm probably not gonna get people from Europe because they're sleeping. So it's just really going to require a little bit of research as to what your brand is and what you're trying to accomplish.
Right, right. And so when you're first getting started on Periscope and it's your first couple times and you don't have a lot of people on live, is that a big deal? Or do you, obviously you want to grow and the idea is to have more and more people live, but what are your thoughts on, having the quantity right away when you're live or seeing it after the fact?
I think it's just, you have to start broadcasts. Start broadcasts, hit go, do it. Even if you get 0 people, eventually you're going to get 1 and eventually you're going to get 2. We all started somewhere.
Exactly.
We all started somewhere. Even like an Amanda Oleander, who's like got huge following. She's really become kind of like the face, let's say, for Periscope. She didn't start with 100,000 followers. She started with probably a small amount and it just grew from there. So don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged by any means.
And how do you recommend managing comments while periscoping at the same time? It seems like there's a lot going on and you're trying to interview, you're trying to be the camera person, and then you have comments coming in, you have the hearts coming in. What do you recommend on that?
It can be a little overwhelming. I've got 2 tips on about this. One of them is I don't accept trolls. If there's a troll on my Periscope, I will block them. Like, I won't even acknowledge them. I just block them. I don't care. This is a business scope. I just block them because you will get trolls. But if you're doing an interview, for example, with someone and you're trying to pay attention to the person you're interviewing while also trying to pay attention to your comments, there's a way to get around that, which is, and I've seen people do this, which they do it fantastic, is you start off your Periscope by welcoming everyone. So when people are coming in, hey, Joe, hey, Mary, great to be here, blah, blah, blah. You acknowledge the people, and then eventually a little bit in, you say, okay, and now I'm going to focus on asking my interview. I'm going to focus on my interview and ask some questions and everything. So you focus on the person in your interview, and you keep reminding the people that are watching, I'm going to take questions pretty soon, so that, I'm probably going to get to your question eventually. And then you open it up to questions so that you can also repurpose that part of the content where you're actually doing the interview. And you're not, having to put this on YouTube and every 5 minutes, like, hey, Joe, hey, Mary, it can be a little cumbersome, but I think that's one of the formulas that I've really enjoyed looking at people do, and I've started to practice it myself.
Well, it goes back to you using the comparison that it's kind of like having your own talk show. So if you look at Jimmy Fallon, he's not like, oh, that person had a question. Oh, what did you say over there? He's controlling the audience. And I think that's, it's a way, you're giving examples of just how to control the expectations of your audience, which would be just, if you look at a TV talk show, they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, but definitely engage your audience. If you are doing live streaming and you're not engaging, you're not being successful. You have to engage your audience. It doesn't mean you have to engage them every second, but you have to engage them because that is the key to being successful in live streaming.
Great point. Okay, so do you have any suggestions on if we want to stay on top of what's happening with live streaming in general, who to follow, if there's any events, online events coming up?
Definitely. There's a lot of people to follow. It depends on your interest. I personally love Kim Garst. She's my good friend now, and I'm kind of partnering with her. But even before that, I always thought she brings a lot of value. Brian Fanzo does some great scopes as well, where he shares a lot of knowledge. Gary Vee, he's doing more and more streaming with Facebook Live, and he's fantastic on Snapchat, regardless.
Gary Vee is hilarious. He is like, if you want to see the extreme, like there's just so many different personalities, and Gary Vee is one extreme, and Kim is over here. Everybody kind of has their own thing going.
There's also, if you're into history, there's Dan Snow, which is at The History Guy. He does some amazing scopes related to history. He's doing a drone. He's going to have a drone fly over Stonehenge. It's just I mean, if you're interested in that kind of thing, he's fantastic. He provides good content. I mean, he's done tons of stuff with Discovery Channel, so he really knows how to work this from a visual perspective. There's also a guy called Brian Steinelson, or Periscope Ryan. He does a lot of underwater periscopes.
I loved the example, I think it was in that Mashable article that you shared and then I shared, about the meditation community formed on Periscope. I'm a big yoga person and also into meditation. I just thought, wow, what an unbelievable example of using Periscope for a good cause.
Definitely. And there's a lot of it being used for social good. So you've got the Global Meditation Scope community, which puts on together these global meditation, like Periscope trains, let's call them. So they're fantastic. They're truly fantastic. There's also someone in Nepal called Derek Cowan who's helping rebuild a village there, and he scopes about it, and that's his whole, using it for social good. And the CEO of Periscope always talks about the Syrian refugee crisis and how Periscope has been used to show in real time the struggle of these people trying to cross over, and everything. So in real time, and it's raw.
Right.
So it's not, your 5 o'clock news where you get a nice little 2-minute package. So.
Yeah, I think, that's definitely one of the unique things about Periscope and really social media in general, but Periscope really brings everything to life, not just for marketing and branding and social media management, but also these examples that you've given that, real life problems happening, social good, bringing people together, bringing community. Well, Cathy, thank you so much. Please tell us how we can follow you on Twitter and Periscope. And if there's anything coming up that you're doing, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. You can follow me on Twitter at Cathy Hackl, CathyHackl. I'm also Cathy Hackl on Periscope. I'm Cathy.Hackl on Snapchat. It was taken, I don't know. And just follow me, on Facebook Live as well. Some things I have coming down the pike, I'm giving a whole bunch of different talks. I'm starting to get invited to do a lot of talks in Latin America because I am bilingual, and kind of sharing with people what live streaming, what live video is, and talking about virtual reality and 360 video in Latin America. And then I'm also organizing an event called Live Video Campus, which is what I founded. And the whole point is to bring education to organizations, brands, and communicators in live streaming. People that want to learn how to do live streaming, or the ins and outs, or the legal issues, or the technicalities. And we're partnering with Sony. We're doing an event August 8th at Sony's headquarters in San Diego, which is going to be very, very exciting.
Okay, perfect. Well, Cathy, thank you so much. And we will catch up with you on Live Campus, or we'll catch up with you on Periscope. And thank you so much, and namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Lisa. Bye.